Hello, everyone. We have come to the end of another year. 2025 is almost upon us, and I thought it was a good time to talk about my top 5 pens that I've used in the past year. This isn't going to be a list of pens that I've released in the past year, though a fair few of them have. This is just about what I've personally been using, what I've been enjoying. I wanted to share that with all of you, give a bit of backstory about each pen, and a writing sample. I like to do these wrap ups at the end of each year, whether it be on Instagram or YouTube or something like that, just to sort of track to see how my tastes changed in the past year, if they did at all, what I've been enjoying, and then sort of looking forward to the next year. So without further ado, let's get into the pens. So the first pen, this is the Cusado Kosumi fountain pen. The Kakari did make my list last year, and this may be kind of cheating because it's a very similar pen. In fact, the only difference in this pen is the cap. It's faceted, which helps a little, without a clip, so it doesn't roll away. But the main thing that I really enjoy on this pen is the Sankakusa nib that was tuned by CY at the 2024 San Francisco Fountain Pen Show. It's similar to a Narinaga Togi, and it is an absolute joy to write with. It's incredibly expressive, incredibly satisfying, and it just lays down a bunch of ink if you want it to. It's a great writing experience. Of course, the Kosumi itself is a sort of bulk filler type filling system, which means it holds a ton of ink and is really, really enjoyable to operate. If you've ever had a Conid before, you know what I'm talking about. And then the body being made of a clear acrylic and titanium, it gives it a really nice weight, and it's just such a satisfying writing experience. It really is a top tier fountain pen. Next, another pickup from the 2024 San Francisco Fountain Pen Show is this Leonardo Furore Grande in Omos Wild Celluloid. I definitely talked about this pen quite extensively in my San Francisco Fountain Pen recap. If you saw that, you know that I've been looking for a pen in Omos Wild Celluloid for a very long time, and this one caught my eye immediately as soon as I saw it, as soon as I visited Salva's table at San Francisco, and it's got a beautiful gold number 8 nib. It's a piston filler, and I'm incredibly happy to have it in my collection. It's got that distinctive camphor smell. It's got an ebonite feed. Its gold trim really complements the celluloid, and it is an incredible writer. The number 8 gold nibs that Leonardo has are just super satisfying. They got a little bit of give to them, and of course the ebonite feed just provides an absolutely amazing ink flow. This is one of those pens that is absolutely a love at first write kind of situation, and I'm very glad that I picked it up. Now, the astute among you may have noticed this is the third pen on this list from the 2024 San Francisco show, and I only have myself to blame for that one. I did kind of go overboard, picking up a lot of pens that I've been looking at for quite a long time at the show. But I can only say my wishes were rewarded. This Newton Prospector in a really, really wonderful red ebonite is a fantastic pen. I've been hearing people sing the praises of the Prospector model from Sean Newton for a very long time. It's a really, really interesting model. It's got the round body in the middle that tapers into a triangle shape with those 3 facets at either end. Really gives it a unique look, or at least definitely some other pen companies have been heavily inspired by this design, and I don't blame them because it feels really nice in the hand. It's really visually appealing, and it's got a really long grip section too, which on a pen, this is the small version of the Prospector, and on this, the grip section is still big enough to sort of put the whole pad of my finger over the grip section without touching the threads, which is really nice. It has a standard Jowo nib in it, but it did come with a Flexible Nib Factory ebonite feed instead of the regular Jowo plastic feed, which I thought was a really, really nice upgrade that Sean Newton puts on. I don't know if he puts them on all of his Prospectors. I think he does. I think I'd have to go back and check if I have any footage with me talking with him at the show. But, the finish on this pen is fantastic. I've never really had an ebonite pen that looks or feels this good in the hand. I don't know if it's because ebonite is particularly hard to finish. I know some people don't really like working with it as pen makers, but this is just a beauty, an absolute sight to behold. I can see why Newton's work is really so loved, and I'm sure this won't be the last of the pens that I get from him. And here we have our first flex nib on the list. If there's one thing you know about me, it's probably that I love my flex nibs, and this Scribo Puma Senso is a really fantastic pen. I am a big fan of this diamond cast finish, was I believe a limited edition with gold spot, and as of the time of filming this video, I think they have 2 left with a 14 karat flex nib on it, which if you have any interest at all, I'll put a little code in the description, so you might want to check that out. But the flex nib on this pen is really something. I believe it's made by the same machinery that the Omos Extra Flexibile nibs were manufactured with. Of course, Scribo being a sort of spiritual successor to Omos. When Omos went into administration, most of the machinery from Omos went to Scribo, and most of the materials went to ASC and a few other companies. But now that I actually am a proud owner of an Omos Extra Flexibile nib, I can say they do feel remarkably similar. It's much softer than other modern flex nibs. I'm a little bit more afraid to spring it than other modern flex nibs, which might be a little bit of a precaution if you are looking to pick this one up, but the results speak for themselves. I would say it is really unparalleled in the realm of modern flex, but this year we did get a new challenger in that field, and that is the 5th pen on this list, which is the Magna Carta Mag 600. The nib on this pen, if you've seen my review of it, you know it is almost like unspeakably good for a modern flex nib. It really blew my mind when I used it. I would highly recommend you go check out that video if you want a little bit more of an in-depth look. But just know that the nib on this pen is the real deal. It feels so similar to vintage flex in a way that I thought was no longer possible. It's incredibly soft. It's got good snapback. It's bouncy. It's satisfying. It really blew my mind when I used it, and I was very, very glad to have this one in my collection this year. Ebonite body, ebonite feed. A bit of an understated look, but it's got a surprise under the hood. I think if you've got a few flex pens, a few steel flex nibs, maybe some modern flex, and you're ready to experience something a little more akin to vintage, I would really recommend checking this one out. So it's been a bit of a crazy 2024, that's for sure. I've really enjoyed using a lot of pens in my collection. I've definitely picked up some more responsibilities at work. You know, I've had my time invested in some other things, but still fountain pens are definitely a part of my everyday life. Probably the Cusado Kosumi was the pen that I used at work the most so far. It's probably got the most comments at work so far out of any pen. For various reasons, content creation has been a little difficult, but I really love doing it, and I hope to continue spreading my love of fountain pens in 2025. I've been up to a few other things as well. I hit my reading goal for the year. I read 20 books. Last year, I believe I read 14, but my goal was 12. This year, my goal was 20, and I think I'm on track to read about 22. My 3 favorite books of the year were, in no particular order, The Path to Power by Robert Caro, a fantastic book about the early life of Lyndon Johnson. Really a must-read for anyone that is interested in national politics. Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I've been slowly trying to build up to The Brothers Karamazov. I tried to read it a couple years ago, and it was a little too difficult for me, but I read 3 of Dostoevsky's books this year, and it culminated with that one, which, that was a mind-blowing one. Very, very fascinating book. And then thirdly was The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas, which probably just one of the most well-written, satisfying, expertly crafted books I've ever read. Just the narrative was strung together so perfectly. Fantastic book. I think it's also the longest book I've ever read. It was like 1,346 pages. It took a bit, but it was definitely worth it. Also, I think I watched like 80-something movies this year, which I was really surprised by, but a few of my favorites this year. Perfect Days, directed by Wim Wenders, was a fantastic movie, incredibly sort of heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time. I think it technically came out this year in the US. Highly recommend checking it out. Also, Barry Lyndon, directed by Stanley Kubrick, another great one. Every single shot in that movie just looked like a painting. And then Andrei Rublev, directed by Andrei Tarkovsky, was just an absolute mind blower. One of the most thoughtful movies. It's like almost 4 hours, but you got to check it out. Okay, so here we have the Cusado Kosumi. I mean, just a beautiful pen. You can see how expressive that Senkakusen nib is, writing in a high angle, super thin line, and in a low angle. Just look at that. The ink is Anderillium Shoebill Stork Gray. And I believe until the end of the year, you can use Bernal 10, BERNAL 10 for 10% off at Ender Williams' website. And it has a 14 karat Sankakusen nib. Really fantastic pen. Jumps over the lazy dog. Despite the fact that I've gotten so much use out of this pen, I've probably only had to refill it 2 or 3 times, and it has written like almost an entire notebook's full of pages. So, a testament to the sheer incapacity of this pen and of the filling system. I'm very glad I picked it up at the show. Okay, now we have the Leonardo Ferrari Grande. I mean, just look at that celluloid. And it does, really, in the pen body, it's got a serious celluloid smell, which I'm a big fan of, but, you know, to each their own. Let's see, I'm using Colorverse San Francisco Bay. That was the show ink this year. And the nib is a 14 karat medium number 8. Lazy dog. All right. And that is the Leonardo Ferrari Grande. Now we have the Newton Prospector in small and red ebonite. The ink is Anderillium Pompadour Contiga Burgundy. How's it spelled? Cotinga? The animal-based names for the Anderillium inks sometimes are beyond my lexical understanding. And the nib is a number 6 medium Yovo. Very nice. Beautiful pen. Next up, we have the Scribo Piuma Senso. You can see that beautiful diamond cast material really does catch the light nicely if you get the right angle. I'll try and show off the flex nib as best as I can. The ink is Robert Oster Soda Pop Blue. And the nib is a 14K extra fine Scribo Feel the Flex nib. And as for normal writing, it is really lovely. Just for a little bit of a demonstration. There you go. You can see the ebonite feed keeps up well, but it's not always perfect, although this one is a little misaligned. It still really works well. It just, pens kind of are like that sometimes, but I'm really, really enjoying this one. Okay, next we have the Magna Carta Mag 600. Yeah, honestly, I mean, using it right after the Scribo, it really doesn't compare. The nib on this is just, it's mind blowing. The ink is Sailor Studio 140. And the nib is, of course, the 14K True Flex. And as for normal writing, this one isn't really as nice because it is so soft. But with a really light hand, it still works. And I mean a light hand. You gotta be really careful. I'm barely touching the page. But on the other hand, what you get in return for that is absolutely effortless flex. I'm not pushing it at all. You can see why this is one of my favorite pens of the year. It's just fantastic. It really is. So there you have it, my top 5 pens of the year. The Cusado Kosumi, the Leonardo Furore Grande, the Newton Prospector, the Scribo, Piuma Senso, and the Magna Carta Mag 600. But yeah, it's been an interesting year, a busy year. Looking forward to 2025. I'm looking forward to all the new adventures I'm going to have in the stationery world. And I thank you for being along in the journey with me. So I hope you have a fantastic New Year's, a fantastic holiday season, and I hope you have a great 2025. So thanks for watching. Bye-bye.